But inside the huddle, something shifted. The team closed ranks, adjusted their rotations, and leaned on grit rather than panic. Kelsey Mitchell was the centerpiece of that turnaround. She exploded after break, finishing with a career-high tying 38 points. 34 of them in the second half, along with 6 assists. Every shot she knocked down chipped away at the deficit and gave the Fever a chance to breathe. Her performance carried weight not just statistically, but emotionally. Without Sophie and Caitlin, Mitchell became the unlikely leader, willing to drag her team back into contention. But the lift didn't rest on her shoulders alone. Odyssey Sims provided steady control of the floor, cutting down on turnovers, slowing the pace when needed, and making sure every possession ended with a good look. She calmed the team in moments when frustration could have easily beaten them. Right alongside her, Aaliyah Boston dominated the paint, posting a double-double that gave Indiana the balance they needed. Her rebounding and interior defense stopped second-chance opportunities and bought just enough space for Mitchell's scoring runs to matter. As the second half played out, the crowd's energy rose with each possession. Loose balls started bouncing Indiana's way. Defensive sets looked sharper, and suddenly, the scoreboard inched closer. By the fourth quarter, the team that had looked dead in the water was running on adrenaline and precision when the horn sounded on a 99-93 win. Indiana had not only erased a 21-point hole, but had also set the mark for the largest comeback in franchise history. While the victory framed one side of the story, off the court, Hartley became the focal point for an entirely different reason. After the viral clip of her smirk circulated, she appeared to make her social media accounts private, and in some cases, they were deleted altogether. That move fueled speculation. Was she about to quit? Was something big happening behind the scenes? Rumors began to circulate of a pending investigation and a potential suspension for a growing list of questionable plays. This is where things get even more interesting. It wasn't just that she went private. It's what she did before she did. She was caught liking a post on Instagram that called her the dirtiest player in the league and referenced a hit on Sophie. That single click felt like pouring gasoline on an already raging fire. To her critics, it was a sign of arrogance, a defiant middle finger to anyone questioning her actions. It was a digital equivalent of the smirk, a move that seemed to show a complete lack of remorse. While Hartley was pulling back from the spotlight, Sophie was preparing to do the opposite. Injured or not, she wasn't about to let the moment pass without making her voice heard. Sophie's reaction in the days following the injury showed just how determined she was to control the narrative. She didn't retreat or leave others to speak on her behalf. Instead, she put her own voice at the center of the conversation. Her first move was short but commanding. She went online and posted, "F around and find out." It was blunt, but it resonated. The message wasn't aimed at Bria Hartley specifically, but at the critics, at those dismissing her toughness, and at anyone who questioned whether Indiana would hold together without her on the court. Fans picked up on it immediately, circulating it across WNBA discussions until it became one of the most talked about posts of the week. But Sophie also made it clear that there was more nuance to the situation. On her podcast, she surprised many by explicitly defending Hartley. She said straight out that she didn't think Bria meant to injure her, adding that the two were super cool and that she had nothing but love for her. For those who had only seen the viral clip of Hartley smirking, Sophie's words complicated the outrage. At the same time, her F around and find out post was aimed less at her opponent and more at the conversation swirling around her family and her toughness. In other words, she gave Hartley the benefit of the doubt, but didn't extend the same courtesy to her critics or to a league that had fined her 3 separate times for speaking out about officiating earlier in the season. That history helped explain her tone. She, more than most players, knew what it felt like to be punished for using her platform. When she had called out officiating months earlier, the league had fined her. But by combining a defiant public statement with a measured, thoughtful explanation on her podcast, she showed that she wasn't just reacting emotionally. She was establishing her own stance while defending her family's dignity. Fans rallied behind her, filling social media with encouragement and highlighting her willingness to speak up even while injured. What might have been remembered only as a bad night for Indiana turned into a rallying cry because Sophie transformed her setback into an act of leadership. This balance, defiant on social media, thoughtful on her podcast, kept her voice central, and shifted the pressure back toward the league. As her response spread, it framed the bigger takeaway from the entire incident. Indiana wasn't folding, and their fight was just beginning. Sophie confirmed the reality of her injury, an MCL tear that would end her season. Meanwhile, the video of Hartley's smirk spread everywhere, and not long after, Hartley's social media accounts were reportedly made private. For Indiana, the night carried its own proof of resilience. Kelsey Mitchell's 38 points powered a 21-point comeback, the largest in franchise history. So now it's your turn. Do you think the officials failed to protect the players, or was this just a case of bad luck? Is Hartley trying to clean up her mess now that she's potentially facing suspension for her actions? And do you think this was a dirty play? Drop your thoughts below, and don't forget to send well wishes for Sophie in the comments. Like, subscribe, and turn on all notifications so you never miss out. Click the video on the screen, and we'll see you in the next one. Fans are already saying that Clark should leave the Fever's medical staff behind and go back to the doctors in Iowa that she can actually trust. And who can blame them? If the front offices lie about when she got hurt, what else are they lying about? Are they downplaying the severity of the injury? Are they planning to rush her back to the court to cash in on a few more ticket sales? These aren't wild conspiracy theories. They're logical questions that arise when a franchise refuses to give straight answers. The silence is deafening and it screams cover up. Stephanie White really thought she could step up to a podium, smile for the cameras, and spin this workout injury story like the fans were clueless. But the more she repeats it, the more cracks appear in the narrative. And every time she doubles down, she torches her own credibility and drags the Fever deeper into a scandal. Instead of protecting Caitlin Clark, White has turned her into the centerpiece of a potential investigation. Fever fans are done. They watched Clark take hard fouls, eat elbows, and get ignored by the refs. And now they're watching her be mishandled by her own organization. Imagine being the most hyped women's basketball player in decades, selling out every arena and breaking TV records, only to be lied about by your own team when you're hurt. That's not just mismanagement, it's malpractice. And if the Fever keep this up, they won't just regret it, they'll be investigated for it. Here's why the scandal stretches far beyond Indiana. Caitlin Clark isn't just another player. She is the WNBA right now. She's the engine powering everything. Ticket sales, TV ratings, sponsorships, and mainstream media coverage. Her presence sells out arenas from coast to coast. Her highlights drive national broadcasts, and her name keeps corporations writing checks. Remove Clark from the equation, and the ripple effects are immediate and devastating. Attendance dips, ratings collapse, and sponsors start looking for the exit. That's why Stephanie White's little cover-up isn't just bad PR. Edges dangerously close to consumer fraud. Let's be honest, the timing couldn't look shadier. Just as Clark was heating up, dragging the Fever out of irrelevance and igniting a league-wide buzz, she's suddenly sidelined under a vague and unbelievable timeline. The Fever's momentum stalls, the team spirals, and the hype vanishes. Whether intentional or not, that's sabotage. And instead of keeping quiet, White went on camera and spun a fake story, making the backlash 10 times worse. This isn't just about one bad lie. It's part of a pattern. Since Clark entered the league, she's been disrespected at every turn. Officials swallowing their whistles while she gets hacked. Commentators nitpicking her game like no other star. Jealous opponents targeting her with cheap shots. And now, her own coach adds deception to the pile. To fans, it looks coordinated, almost as if the league is terrified of her stardom and wants to dim her light. But here's the irony. Every cheap shot, every swallowed whistle, and every lie only makes her fan base louder, more loyal, and more determined to protect her. Still, let's not sugarcoat the risk. Caitlin Clark is human, not a machine. Every mishandled injury, every rush return, and every shady media spin cuts into her career longevity. That's a nightmare scenario here. The WNBA's biggest star being broken down before she even hits her prime because her team couldn't be honest or careful. And if that happens, the backlash won't just be harsh, it'll be historic. Stephanie White won't just face the anger of the fans. She'll wear the blame for damaging the very player who is carrying the league on her back. And White has already guaranteed she'll have regrets by lying. She didn't just cover up an injury, she lit a fuse. Now, fans are dissecting her every word, piling up receipts, and exposing the contradictions in her story. Reporters outside of Indiana are circling, and once the national media outlets dig in, this story will explode. And when that happens, the Fever won't just be dealing with angry fans. They'll be dealing with sponsors backing out, media scrutiny they can't control, and potentially even regulators poking around. Because let's be blunt, this isn't just sloppy optics. It could be illegal. If you're selling a product, tickets, broadcasts, merchandise, off the back of a superstar while knowingly misrepresenting her availability, that's consumer fraud 101. Watchdog groups and regulators don't play around with that. Once the words fraud or false advertising hit the headlines, the Fever could be staring down fines, lawsuits, and sponsors demanding answers. And the tragic irony here is that Caitlin Clark knows she's too sharp not to. She knows the dates don't add up. She knows the talking points sound scripted. But she's trapped, forced to smile and nod, because calling out her own coach mid-season would get her branded as difficult. She's being silenced in her own story. And that's the most heartbreaking part of all this. So, where does this go from here? There are two paths. Either the Fever admit they botched this, come clean, and finally start treating Clark like the franchise cornerstone she is. Or, more likely, they'll keep lying. Fans will keep stacking receipts, and eventually, the entire thing will detonate. And when it does, Stephanie White won't just regret lying. She'll regret underestimating the power of Clark's fan base, the reach of the media, and the possibility of an investigation that could shake the WNBA to its core. Because if this deception sticks, the Fever aren't just staring at angry tweets. They're staring at a nightmare scenario. We're talking about investigations into deceptive consumer practices. If fans paid for tickets expecting Clark to play when the team knew she wouldn't, that's ground for lawsuits, class action lawsuits, fines, and even sponsors pulling their money until the Fever and the league clean this mess up. And make no mistake, sponsors will not tolerate this. They've invested millions in Clark's star power, not in a team that spins fairy tales about her health. If they smell fraud, they'll walk, and they'll take their money with them. And don't think the league office can hide from this. Once the national media starts hammering this story, Commissioner Kathy Engelbert and the WNBA brass will have no choice but to act. That could mean independent medical reviews, stricter injury reporting guidelines, or even a full-blown lead probe into how the Fever handled Clark's situation. The second you hear the words league investigation, you know the scandal has gone from bad PR to a full-blown crisis. So, what do you think? Is this just a sloppy cover-up, or are we staring at a full-blown investigation waiting to explode? Do you still trust the Fever when it comes to their injury reporting? Let us know in the comments below. Like, subscribe, and turn on all notifications so you never miss out. Click the video on the screen, and we'll see you in the next one.